In this video, I'll be showing you how to build this advanced habit tracker which comes with several charts and analytics to track your progress over time. So I'll just talk you through the habit tracker that we're going to build today, and then I'm going to show you how to build it from scratch. So over here we have the actual habits for today. So each day a brand new card like this will pop up and you can simply check off the habits as you complete them throughout the day, and you can watch as this progress bar here increases. This then feeds into the this month chart, which you'll see here. So this is a line chart that I built using Notion's brand new feature, Notion Charts, which allows you to create a range of useful charts directly within Notion. If you want to learn a little bit more about the charts and the different types, then I did record an entire video dedicated to that, so I'll leave a link in the description box below. So this chart is simply showing this progress bar for each day of the current month, so you can see how often you're actually completing all of your habits. So this point here is for today, so if you just watch it as I uncheck or check these check boxes, that point will update. I've also created the exact same chart but just for this week rather than the month. As today is actually Monday, the first day of the week, there's only one point showing on the chart, but as you go through the week it will look a little bit more like this one. I've then also created a full month calendar view, so if you forget to check off your habits one day, you can actually just look at the cards for each of the different days of the month on the calendar. So if you just forgot to check this off, for example, you can just check it off for a different day of the month. And I've also set up one more chart underneath, and this is the by month chart. So as you can see, it's a bar chart that along the bottom has a different bar for each month of the year, and the bars represent the average completion rate of your habit. So it's essentially these progress bars on here, they are averaged out for each month, so you can see on average how often you're completing your habits per month. I've also set up this really cool analytics system here, so it will display a progress ring for each of the different habits that you have, and this ring is the average completion rate for this particular habit. So this is essentially saying that 59% of the time I do complete my read habit, and so on, and then there is just a total which averages these out at the bottom as well. So that is the habit tracker that I've set up using Notion's brand new charts feature. So in the rest of the video I'm going to be showing you how to build it from scratch. The final thing that I wanted to mention before we get into the build is that if you're on one of Notion's free plans, then currently you can only create one chart within Notion for free. Otherwise, to create unlimited charts you do need to upgrade to one of their paid plans. So if you're on the free plan and you don't want to upgrade, then I'd recommend just picking one of the charts that I've shown in this video, either the this month, the this week, or this by month chart, and just creating that chart with this build. But everything else, the habit tracker, the analytics, and one chart, you will be able to build even if you're on the free plan. So I've just set up a brand new page. I'm just titling this page Habit Tracker. I've chosen an emoji and a cover photo, but that's all we've done so far. So the first thing that we're going to do is add a brand new database. So I'm just going to type in /database, and you want to select this database inline option. And we're just going to give this database a name. I'm going to call mine Habit Tracker, but feel free to give it any name you like. And we're also just going to click on here to hide the database title because we actually don't need to see it. We've already got the title here. I also am going to delete this default tags property because it's not something we need. So I'm just going to click on it and select delete and delete. So in this first row here, I'm just going to click on here and we're just going to name it today. So this is going to be that card which shows all of your habits. So we're just going to name it today, and we actually don't need these other rows. So I'm just going to select them and delete them for now. So we just have one row in this table. Let's also give it an icon. So I'm going to click on these 6 dots here next to it and select edit icon. You can choose an emoji if you like. I'm actually going to use Notion's icon library just because I think they look a little bit nicer. And I think the icon I'm going to go with is going to be a sunshine icon like this. So the first property that we need in this database is going to be a date property. So I'm going to click on this plus symbol here and type in date, and we're going to select the date property, and I'm just going to leave the name as date as well. So I'm going to click on this box to choose our date, and we're going to start with just today's date. So this property is just going to indicate what date this habit record is for. Next, we're going to start adding our habits. So each one is going to be a checkbox property. So we're going to click on the plus symbol here, type in checkbox, and select the checkbox property. And the title you're going to give it is going to be the name of your habit. So I'm going to put 2 liters of water like this. Feel free to obviously add in whatever habits you want to track, and you can also add an emoji in here as well. So just at the start I'm just going to add an emoji, and let's just go with this water droplet because that makes sense for this habit, and I'm just going to add a space in between. So that is the name of the checkbox. If we now have a look here, that is displaying here as the name. So I'll just make that a bit smaller. Now you just want to do the exact same thing for all of the habits. You can add as many habits as you like. So you just click on the plus symbol, type in checkbox, and just add add the next habit. So let's say it's Duolingo and so on. So I'm just going to add all of the habits I want to track. So I've added 5 checkbox properties and each one is a different habit that I want to track. At this point, I'm just going to make our page full width so we have a little bit of room because we're starting to run out of room on our table. So to do that, I'm just going to click on these 3 dots up here in the corner and we're just going to toggle on this full width option. That's just going to make our page a bit wider so we have more space to work with. Just before we jump back to the tutorial, I want to let you know about my second brain template. This powerful productivity system is the best way to organize your tasks, notes, projects, and goals, and is based on productivity methods that actually work. Hundreds of people have already purchased the template and are now more productive than ever. It also has tons of 5-star reviews from people that have used it. I'll leave a link in the description box below if you're interested. That's all, back to the tutorial. So this is how the habit tracker is going to work. So this is the record for today. So I'll simply just check off the habits that I've completed, and then I would ideally like a progress bar here that's going to show me how many of the checkboxes I've checked off. So it would say 50% or 80% or something like that. So what I'm going to do is add another property, and to do that we can use a formula property. So I'm going to select that one and let's just call this one progress. And then you want to click on this formula edit button here to actually write in our formula. So to be able to work out the percentage of checkboxes that are checked, we need to convert the checkbox to a number. So if it's checked, it would display the number 1, and if it's unchecked, it would display the number 0. And that allows us just to add up the ones for any that are checked to work out the percentage. So to be able to do that, you can actually use the toNumber function. So I'm just going to type in toNumber like this, and you should then see it pop up here on the sidebar. So I'm going to select that. And inside these parentheses here, we need to add our first habit. So the first one we're going to add is going to be this 2 liters of water. So you'll see all of the properties here in the sidebar. So we'll start with the first habit. So as I said, if this checkbox is checked, this would simply return the number 1. And if it's unchecked, it will return the number 0. Now I need to add all of those numbers together. So I'm simply just going to add, and we're going to do the same thing, toNumber, and inside here we're going to put the next habit. So let's put Duolingo and so on. So depending on how many habits you have, you just want to add all of them in here. So I've got 5, so I'm just going to do this 5 times. So this is what it should look like. So I've got all of my habits now inside one of these toNumber functions. The final thing we need to do to work out the percentage is actually just divide it by the number of habits that we have. So I'm going to start by just isolating this entire thing inside parentheses. So I'm going to add 1 at the end and 1 right at the start so that we don't mess with any of that calculation. And at the end, we're just going to do divide by typing / and 5. So I have 5 habits, which is why I'm doing 5. But if you have 3 habits, you want to write 3. If you have 10 habits, 10. So make sure you just write whatever number of habits you have here. And then I'm going to click done. And as you can see here, this is displaying as 0.8 because I've completed 80% of the habits, but I would prefer if it actually showed as a percentage. So you can change the number format here. So we're going to change it to a %, and now it says 80%. And I also would like it to show as a progress bar. So here you can choose how you want it to display. So I'm going to do a bar, but if you like, you can also show it as a ring like this, but I'm going to stick with the bar. So that is the basic habit tracker setup complete for now. Now we want to set up our analytics database that is actually going to track your completion statistics over time. So just underneath, we're going to add another database. So I'm going to type / database and select database in line. And let's just call this one analytics. And again, I'm just going to hide the database title. And we're also going to delete this tags property because we don't need that. I'm also going to delete the second 2 rows because we only need 1 row in this database. And we're going to just name it analytics. And we can also choose an icon. So again, I'll click on the 6 dots here, select edit icon. Let's go with the icon library, and I'm going to go with this chart icon here. So as I said, this database is actually going to work out the statistics or the analytics for our habit tracker. So for it to be able to do that, I need to connect the 2 databases together. And luckily we can set up a relation property which relates or connects databases together. So in this database, I'm going to click on the plus symbol to add a new property, and we're going to search for the relation property and select this one. It's going to first ask me which database I want to link to. So in this case, we're in our analytics database, so I want to link to the habit tracker. So I'm going to select the habit tracker database. Now you can leave these settings as they are, but you do want to switch on this show on habit tracker, which just means it's also going to show this relation on our habit tracker, which is what we want. So I'm going to toggle that on, and then I'm going to select add relation. So now as you can see, a new column has appeared on both of our databases, which is perfect. So for our analytics to work, we do need to relate every single record within our habit tracker to the analytics page. So to do that, you just want to click on here. It will display the analytics page that we set up over here, and you just want to click on that to relate it. So this record here is now successfully linked to our analytics page, and you should also see this today page pop up here in this box. Now we are going to automate this later so that you don't have to select that every single time, but I'll show you how to do that a little bit later on in the video. So back in our habit tracker database, I'm now going to change this to a calendar view so that we can create the full month view that I showed you in the example. So to change it to a calendar, we're going to click on these three dots here and select layout, and let's change it to a calendar. And this is what the calendar looks like, and here is that record displaying on today's date. I do want to see all of the check boxes on the calendar so that I can check them off directly from here. So to do that, click on the three dots and select properties, and you'll see all of the properties that we added to the table here. So you just want to unhide them by selecting this icon here, and they'll now display on the card, as you can see. So I'm just going to select all of the different habits like this, and then finally at the bottom I'm also going to show the progress bar. So this is what that looks like, and as you can see, you can check or uncheck them directly from the card and the progress bar will increase accordingly. Next, I'm going to set up a default template so that I don't have to add this manually every single day. So to do that, what you're going to do is up here you'll see this new button, so we're going to click on this little downward arrow and select new template. We're going to give it the name of today, just like the record we currently have, and I want to select the same icon, so I'm going to add an icon, select icons, and again we're going to go with the sunshine emoji. Now these are all of the properties within the template, so you can pre-fill in any of these that you want. So the first one we're going to pre-fill in is this analytics relation. So as I said, we need to relate every single record to this analytics page for the analytics to work correctly. So I'm just going to pre-fill that in so that I don't have to manually do that every day. For the date, I want it to be the current date of whenever I make this template. So I'm actually just going to select today, and that's just going to automatically pop in whatever today's date is when I select this template. The rest of the properties we're going to leave as they are, because obviously these are the checkbox properties for the habit, so I'm going to fill those out on the day depending on if I've checked off the habit or not. So that's all we're going to do. We're now just going to click back onto the main page. So firstly, I want to make that template default, so it's just the default template that is applied. So we can click on here and click on the three dots next to the new template and just set it as default and just select for all views in our habit tracker. I also want to set that template to repeat, so it will automatically pop up for me every single day without fail. I don't even have to manually generate it. So to do that, we're going to click on the three dots and we're going to select repeat, and I'm going to repeat daily so that it pops up every single day. So you want to make sure that it just says every 1 days here and click save. So now this template is going to generate for me every single day. So essentially what's going to happen is I'll come to this habit tracker tomorrow, and on the 13th box there will be a blank copy of this displaying in this box, and that will do the same every single day. Now I want to add a little bit more data for the previous days, so I'm just going to manually add it myself. So if I just click on this plus, it's going to add the template for me that I just set up. So if I just click back here, as you can see, it's just a blank card, so I can just fill out some example data for the previous days. So I'm just going to add a few for the rest of the month. So this is what it will look like with more data. At this point, I'm just going to change the name of this tab. So I'm just going to click on here and rename it, and I'm just going to name it full month because that's what it represents. And next we're going to add the first chart. So to add a chart, we're going to click on this plus symbol here and we're going to select this new chart option. Now the first chart we're going to create is going to be the line chart, which shows your progress over the month. So the first thing I'm going to do is select the chart type, and we're going to select line. Then we're going to select what we want to display on the x-axis. So in this case, I want to see the date and I want to see it by day. Luckily that's already been pre-selected for me, so I'm just going to leave it as this. But if you click on here, it would show all of the different properties within the table. So you'd click on date and then select day so that it shows the date by day, and as you can see along here, it's showing each day of the month. And I'm going to leave the sort as it is from old to new, which just means it's going from the first date of the month through to the newest or most recent date. Now on the y-axis, it's currently showing the count, but I don't want to see the count. Instead, I want to see our progress bar that we set up to show the progress of how many habits you've completed that day. So I'm going to click on here and we're going to select progress, and it doesn't actually really matter which one you select because there was only one number anyway, but I'm just going to click sum, and as you can see, it's now showing the percentage of habits completed on each day of the month. I'm going to leave the color as it is, but feel free to select this color option here and pick any of these colors. So you could go green, you could go orange, it's completely up to you. I'm going to keep it as the auto, which is this blue color, because I think it looks quite nice. The other thing we want to do is add a filter so that it only shows this month's data. So I'm going to select filter, and we're going to filter based on our date property, and I'm just going to set that to this month so that we only get the current month's data. filter. Now this is a dynamic filter, so when it becomes next month, it will automatically pull through that month. So that is our this month chart. So I'm just going to quickly hide the title and let's change the name of this tab. Instead of chart, I'm just going to change it to this month so it describes what the chart actually is. And we're also just going to create the exact same chart but just showing the data for this week. So I'm going to click on here and I'm going to duplicate this chart and I'm just going to change the name to this week. And the only thing I need to do is actually just change the filter that we applied. So I'm going to click on filter and instead of this month, I'm going to change it to this week. Now, as I mentioned earlier, today is actually Monday for me, which is why there's only one dot on this chart. But as you go throughout the week, it will look a little bit more like this chart. So that is this database set up. The next thing I want to do is create that little card that you see in the sidebar of the example where it has just today's card, so you can simply just check it off throughout the day. So that card is very similar to the cards you see here on this calendar. So what we're actually going to do is I'm going to click on this tab here and I'm going to copy a link to this view. I'm going to scroll down underneath all of these and I'm going to paste it down here at the bottom and it will paste as a link like this. You then want to select this linked database view option and it's going to turn that into a linked view. Now, a linked view just means they're connected together. So if I update one, it will update on the other. So for example, if I check off this checkbox here for yoga on the 11th, let's just go back up to the other one. As you can see, that's also been checked off on this one. So they're just linked together. So this one we're going to transform into that other view that I showed you in the example. So the first thing we need to do is change the layout. So this is a calendar and that one was actually a gallery view. So to do that, we're going to click on these three dots here. I'm going to select layout and we're going to change it to a gallery. I also need to change the filter. So this is currently bringing up all of the records that we've added into the database, but I actually only want to see today's record. So I'm going to click on filter here and we're going to filter based on the date. And I'm simply just going to change this to this day, which basically just means today. And as you can see, once I've done that, we only have one record in the database, which is the record for today. But I do actually want this card to look exactly like the cards on the calendar. So I'm just going to change the way that it looks. So you can do that by clicking on the three dots. And firstly, I want to get rid of this gray space here, which is actually a cover photo. So we're going to click on layout and where you see this card preview, we're going to set it to none so that it disappears. Then I'm going to click on properties and we're simply just going to show all of the checkboxes on the card. So I'm just going to unhide each one so that they appear on the card. And you also just want to show this progress bar as well at the bottom. So just make sure that the habit checkboxes are in the same order as the calendar. So similar to the calendar, you can just uncheck or check the checkboxes throughout the day. I'm also just going to change the name of this tab. Let's just click rename and I'm just going to call it habits. Next, I want this to be placed next to the chart and the full calendar that we set up. So to do that, we're going to add some columns. So just underneath, I'm going to type in /2C and you should see this 2 columns block appear. So I'm going to select that and it's now added in 2 columns. So we're going to start by placing this in the left column. So to do that, I'm simply just going to click on these 6 dots here. And if you click and drag it, you can drag it into the column. So make sure you look for this blue line that is only going halfway across the screen. And that is the first column. I can also just make the column a bit smaller because it doesn't need to be that big just for this card. Then in this second column, we're going to place the charts and the calendar. So let's just scroll up and this is the calendar and the charts. Let's just actually put the calendar at the end so that the chart is the first thing we see. And again, I'm going to click on the 6 dots and just drag, scrolling down as I go and placing it here in this column. So this is now what it looks like. Feel free to just play around with the sizing as you like. So I've just quickly added some data also for July, which is the previous month, because I now want to set up the chart that I showed you in the example, which shows each month and the average completion rate throughout the month. And we're actually going to place that graph underneath this one here in this blank space. So I'm going to place my cursor here underneath this one and just make sure you're inside this column. And I'm going to type in /chart and I'm going to grab a vertical bar chart. Now it's going to firstly ask which database I want to use. So we're going to use the habit tracker database and you just want to make sure that it is a vertical bar chart. So firstly, I want to decide what we're going to show on our x-axis. So I actually want to show the date, but rather than show it by day, I want to show it by month. So if you click on here and hover over the date property, we're going to select month. And as you can see, it's then going to show a bar for each month of the year. So I've only added data for July and August so far, which is why we've just got 2 bars. And again, we're going to leave the sort as old to new so that it goes from the oldest month up to the newest month. And then on the y-axis, we actually want to show our progress. So I'm going to click on here and select the progress. So we actually want to see the average. So it's just going to take all of the progress bars, for example, for July, and just work out the average completion rate. And that will display here on the bar, as you can see. I then just want to add a filter for the current year, because if you're using this habit tracker for several years, you'll end up with loads of bars on here. So I think it would work better if it was just for the current year. So I'm going to add a filter, and we're going to filter by date, and I'm just going to change this to this year. So that is this chart all set up. You can just change the name here. So let's just change it to by month, like this. So we're almost there now. The final thing that I wanted to show you how to build was the analytics database. So let's just go back up here to the analytics database that we started earlier. So we actually want to be able to pull through an individual analytic for each of the different habits that we have. So it will show, for example, your 2-liter water habit and the average completion rate for that particular habit. So to work out an average in this database, we simply just want to grab the data from the habit tracker database, pull it into this database, and then just work out the average. So to do that, we can use rollup properties. So I'm going to add another property on this database, and I'm going to type in rollup and select this property. So let's start with our 2-liter water habit. So I'm simply just going to name this property 2-liter water, like this. And it's firstly going to ask me which relation I want to select. So with rollups, you have to have a relation between the two databases. Luckily, we did already set one up with our habit tracker. So if I click on here, I can select habit tracker. Then it's going to ask me what property I want to grab from our habit tracker database. So if I click on here, we are going to grab our 2-liter water checkbox property. And as you can see, it's now bringing up all of the individual checkboxes that I've added into the tracker for 2 liters of water. But I actually don't want to just see the checkboxes like this. I would like to see how many or the percentage of them that are checked. So to do that, we can click on this calculate button, and we're going to go on percent, and we're going to select percent checked. And it's now given us a percentage of how often we actually complete this 2-liter water habit. Now I'd like to display that as a progress ring. So under show as, we're going to select ring, and you can also choose a color. I think in this case, let's go with yellow. So now I'm simply just going to do the exact same thing for all of the different habits. So I'm going to click on here, select roll up, set the relation as habit tracker. For property, I'm just going to pick the next habit. So let's do our Duolingo, select calculate, and again, percent checked, and then just set it as a ring. And then I'm just going to pick a different color. So for this one, let's do it as orange, and just make sure you change the name to the name of the habit. So I'm just going to do that for all of them. So now I have a separate ring for each of the different habits. Finally, I also would like one that just shows the total. So it's just the average completion rate in total. So we're going to add one more roll up. So I'm going to type in roll up, and this one, let's just name total. Again, select the habit tracker relation, and for property, we're actually going to select the progress bar formula. And for calculate, we actually just want it to calculate the average. So I'm going to click on here, and under more options, you'll find average. And let's also set that as a bar so it looks a little bit different to the individual rings. So now we've got all of the properties we need. I just want to make this look a little bit nicer. Now, if you remember on the example, I actually had labels which show what each of these different rings are. So we do actually need to add them manually as text properties, but you only have to do it once. So what we're going to do is I'm going to click once again on the plus symbol, and I'm going to type in text, and we're going to grab this text property. So the first one is going to be our 2-liter water. So I'm simply just going to name it 2-liter water label, as it's just going to be a label that is displayed on our card. So if I hit enter, I can now click on this box here and type in whatever text I want to be displayed on the label. So I simply just want it to say 2-liter water and a colon, like this. Let's also highlight it and make it bold so it stands out a little bit more. And I also would like to add the exact same emoji that you see on these cards as well. So at the start, I'm just going to add the same water emoji that we had and a space. So that is what the label is going to look like on the card. So you just want to make sure you add one for each of the different habits. So again, click on the plus symbol, grab a text property. The name is going to be the habit. So let's say it's Duolingo and label. Just click back and then click on the box, and we're going to type in Duolingo, a colon. I'm going to highlight it and make it bold. And again, at the start, I'm just going to add in the same emoji that displays on the habit tracking card. So just do that for each of the different habits. So here I've added all of the different labels. I do also want to add one final label, and that is for the total. So just once more, we're going to add one more text property, and it's the total label. And the only difference with this one is I'm going to type in total and a colon. Again, highlight it and make it bold, but I actually want to make it green so that it stands out a little bit more from the other labels. So to do that, you can just click on this circle here, and we're going to change the color to green. And I'm not going to add an emoji to this one, but you can if you like. So now we have all of the properties in our analytics database that we need. So we're now going to switch it to a gallery view so that we can create a card kind of similar to this one. So I'm going to click on the three dots here and we're going to change the layout to a gallery. Firstly, we want to get rid of this gray space here, which is usually for a cover photo, but we're not going to include one. So I'm going to click on card preview and just set it to none to get rid of the space. And then I want to display all of those properties on the card. So I'm going to click back and select properties. So we want to start by showing each of the labels on the card. So I'm going to start by unhiding each label and just make sure that they're in the same order as the habits on the actual tracker. So we started with the water, then the Duolingo label, then read, and finally the total label at the bottom. So these are all of the labels that we just set up with those text properties. And then underneath each of the labels, you want to show the actual data. So we'll start with the 2-liter water. So I'm going to unhide our 2-liter water, or you can actually just drag it like this and just place it underneath the correct label. And as you can see, that's now displaying here. I'm going to do the same thing. So we've got Duolingo. So I'm just going to drag that and place it under the Duolingo label and so on. So I'm just going to do that for each of these. So I've done that for all of them. The only other one is going to be our total needs to display under the total label. So I'm just going to drag and drop that one underneath. So this is now what we have. It's our analytics card, which shows each of the different habits and the average completion rate for each individual habit. The final thing I want to do is actually just place this underneath this. So what I'm going to do is just grab it using the 6 dots and you can just drag it down and place it here underneath. So just look for this blue line so that you know you're in the right column. And that's it. I'm just going to get rid of this blank space here so that we can push this up to the top. And that is our habit tracker all set up. So as we set that template with this card to repeat earlier, this will automatically pop up here every single day and it will be completely blank. So you'll come to your habit tracker in the morning and it will look like this. And then you can check off your habits throughout the day and watch as that updates here live on the graph. You can view by week. And if you want to check any of your previous data, you can check on the full month calendar to update or amend anything that was a mistake. You can see all of your completion statistics by month in this chart, and finally over here you can see your full analytics for each individual habit and also the total here as well. If you want to be even more productive, then make sure you check out my Second Brain template, which is an advanced productivity system. It has tons of 5-star reviews from people that have used it. You can grab this template over on my store. I'll leave a link in the description box below.